The smoke reached the ranch before dawn. Nathaniel Cordell smelled it first. Sharp, bitter, wrong. Not pine, not sage. Something that had been a home. His night watchman found them at the iron gate just past 5. Two shapes in the snow. Small, still. The girl's face was half burned. The boy's hand wrapped in what used to be his mother's apron. Both covered in ash so thick their skin looked gray in the lantern light. The girl's fist wouldn't open. The watchman had to pry her fingers loose one at a time. Inside, a silver locket on a chain. He clicked it open, held it to the flame. A wedding photograph. 1875. A young man in a wool suit, a woman in simple calico. Both smiling like the world hadn't learned to lie yet. The young man had Nathaniel's face. The woman had been dead 15 years. The children shouldn't exist. But they were breathing and bleeding and staring at him like he was supposed to know what mercy looked like. Nathaniel carried the girl himself. She weighed nothing, like holding a bundle of sticks wrapped in burned cloth. The boy followed, wouldn't let go of his sister's sleeve. His eyes tracked every shadow. "Put them in the guest room," Nathaniel said. His voice came out flat. A boss giving orders about fence posts. The housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, a widow from the railroad camps, moved fast, stripped the beds, boiled water, didn't ask questions. 18 years working for Nathaniel Cordell had taught her when a man needed silence more than answers. Nathaniel stood in the doorway. Couldn't make himself step over the threshold. The girl was conscious now. Barely. Her eyes, gray as winter sky, locked onto his face. "You're him," she whispered. Her voice scraped like a file on tin. "From the picture." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I don't know you." "But Mama said—" She coughed. Blood flecked her lips. "Mama said you'd have cold eyes. She was right." He turned away. "Get the doctor." Dr. Abigail Frost arrived within the hour. She'd been in Montana 6 years, long enough to lose her Philadelphia accent, not long enough to lose her spine. She took one look at the girl's burns and swore under her breath, not loud, just enough for God and Nathaniel to hear. "These need cleaning, properly." She rolled up her sleeves. "And I'll need laudanum. The boy's hand is infected." Nathaniel watched from the hallway. Dr. Frost worked in silence. Steady, methodical. The girl didn't cry. Just stared at the ceiling and counted her own breaths. The boy hadn't made a sound since they arrived. When Dr. Frost finally emerged, she found Nathaniel exactly where she'd left him. Standing, arms crossed, face carved from granite. "They'll live," she said, "if the fever doesn't take the girl in the next 2 days." "Good. That's all? Just good?" Nathaniel met her eyes. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to go in there and tell them they're safe." "They are safe." "No." Dr. Frost stepped closer, dropped her voice. "They're sheltered. There's a difference. That girl is holding onto a locket, like it's the only proof she exists. The boy hasn't spoken. Not once. You know what that means?" Shock. "Terror. They think you're going to send them away." Nathaniel's hands flexed. "I haven't decided what I'm doing with them yet." Haven't decided?" "Nate, they crawled 3 miles through snow with second-degree burns. They came here. To you, that locket didn't appear out of thin air." "I know what the locket means." "Then act like it." She left, boots heavy on the floorboards. The door to the guest room stayed open. The lamplight inside looked warm, golden, like something from a life Nathaniel had burned to ash 23 years ago. He didn't go in. Samuel Bridger found him in the barn after midnight. Nathaniel was supposed to be checking the tack. Instead, he was standing in an empty stall, staring at nothing. "They settled?" Samuel asked. "Sleeping. You sleep any?" "No." Samuel leaned against the stall door. He'd been with Nathaniel since 78. Knew when to push and when to just stand there breathing the same cold air. Finally, "They got your eyes, Nate." Nathaniel's hands stilled on the bridle he'd been holding for 10 minutes without actually seeing it. "I don't have grandchildren." "Then whose are they?" "I don't know." "Liar." The word hung in the dark like a rope. Nathaniel turned. "You want to say that again?" Samuel didn't flinch. "You heard me. You know exactly who they are. You're just too goddamn scared to say it out loud." "I don't have family, Sam. I made sure that, well, family found you anyway." "What are you gonna do? Send them back to whatever burned down around them?" "I'll find relatives. Someone." "Who?" "Their mama's dead. Fire killed her. You saw the girl's face. She was in it. Tried to pull her mother out and couldn't. Now she's here. Holding your wedding photo. You think that's coincidence?" Nathaniel's throat worked. "I can't—" "Can't what?" "I can't be what they need." Samuel was quiet a long time. Then, "Maybe they ain't here because they need you. Maybe they're here because you need them." Nathaniel didn't go back to the house. He sat outside the guest room door instead, back against the wall, knees up like he was guarding something too valuable to name. Around 3 in the morning, the boy woke up screaming. Nathaniel heard it through the door, heard Mrs. Chen trying to soothe him, heard the girl's voice, rough and steady. "It's okay, Tommy. I'm here. I'm right here." The screaming stopped, turned into shaking sobs, then quiet. Nathaniel pressed his palms against his eyes until he saw stars. When dawn finally leaked through the window at the end of the hall, Samuel found him in the same spot. Hadn't moved, hadn't slept. "You gonna sit there all day?" "If I have to." Samuel shook his head, walked away, came back 10 minutes later with coffee and a blanket. "You ain't protecting them, Nate. They're protecting you." "From what?" "From being alone anymore." Samuel left the coffee, took the blanket back when Nathaniel didn't reach for it. That afternoon, Nathaniel went into town, came back with a bolt of cotton fabric, 2 pairs of children's boots, and a silver pocket watch, his father's, kept in a drawer for 30 years. He left the watch on the table beside the boy's bed, didn't say anything, didn't wait to see if the boy would take it, just set it down, listened to it tick, and walked out. The boy's fingers closed around it 5 minutes later, held it to his ear. And for the first time since the fire, Thomas Cordell stopped shaking. The girl's name was Eleanor, the boy was Thomas. Nathaniel learned this from Mrs. Chen, not from asking them himself. He learned other things too in the week that followed. Learned them the way you learn the shape of a storm, by watching from a distance, marking how it moves. Eleanor, Ellie, was 9 years old. Her mother had died trying to shield her from the falling beams. The left side of Ellie's face would scar. Dr. Frost was certain of it. The girl never asked about mirrors. Thomas was 6. He'd burned his hand on the door latch trying to get back inside for his mother. The infection was clearing, but slowly. He hadn't spoken since the fire, not a word. Just watched everything with eyes too old for his face. They'd walked 3 miles through snow in their nightclothes. Nathaniel couldn't stop thinking about that. 3 miles. In November. 2 children, 1 half burned, 1 mute with shock. And they'd made it here. To him, he still didn't know why that felt like an accusation. The weather turned. Not to winter yet, but close. The kind of cold that gets in your bones and doesn't leave. Nathaniel ordered fires kept burning in the guest room around the clock. Ordered the cook to make broth, soft bread, anything the children could keep down. Ordered new clothes sent from town. Wool dresses for the girl, flannel shirts for the boy. He did not go into the room. Every morning he stood outside the door, listened, made sure they were breathing, then left before anyone could catch him. Samuel caught him anyway. "You look like a dog that lost its master," Samuel said one afternoon, finding Nathaniel on the porch, staring at nothing. "I'm thinking. About? How long before they're well enough to travel?" Samuel spat tobacco juice over the rail. "Travel where?" "Wherever they've got people, family, someone. And if they don't?" Nathaniel didn't answer. Samuel studied him. "You're scared of 2 kids who ain't even tall as your belt buckle." "I'm not scared." "Then what are you?" Nathaniel's jaw worked. "Practical. Horse shit." On the 4th day, Samuel took matters into his own hands. He showed up at the guest room door, mid-morning with his hat in his hands and his best manners on display. "Ma'am," he said to Ellie, who was sitting up in bed with a book Mrs. Chen had brought her, "wondering if you and your brother might like to see the horses." Ellie looked at Tommy. Tommy looked at his hands. "It's warm in the barn," Samuel added. "And the colts are friendly, real gentle." "Will he be there?" Ellie asked. Her voice still rasped, like something scraped raw. "The boss?" "No, ma'am. He's riding fence lines. Won't be back till supper." Ellie considered this, then nodded once. The barn smelled like hay and leather and animal warmth. Tommy's eyes went wide the moment they stepped inside. Samuel showed them the stalls, introduced each horse by name and temperament. "This here's Molly. She's got a mean streak, but only if you deserve it. And that's Cisco. Fastest horse we got, but dumber than a box of hammers." Ellie smiled. Small, brief, but real. Then Samuel brought them to the last stall, a roan mare with a 3-week-old foal pressed against her side. Tommy stopped walking. His good hand reached through the slats. The foal stepped forward, nuzzled his palm. Tommy's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Soft," he whispered. The word was barely there, like a leaf falling. But it was a word. Samuel's throat tightened. "Yeah, son, real soft." Tommy looked up at him. "Can I touch him?" "Sure you can." Samuel opened the gate, helped Tommy inside. The boy ran his fingers along the foal's neck, moving slow, reverent, like he was afraid the world might take this away too. Ellie watched from outside the stall, her scarred face tilted toward the light slanting through the barn door. "Why doesn't he want us?" she asked quietly. Samuel didn't pretend not to understand. "It ain't that he don't want you." "Then what is it?" "He's scared." "Of us?" "Of what you mean." Ellie's hand touched the locket at her throat. She'd taken to wearing it every minute she was awake. Mama said he was a good man who got lost. Your mama was right. Is he still lost? Samuel looked at her. This girl with half her face burned and her brother struck mute and her mother dead in the ground, and she was asking about Nathaniel's pain. Yeah, Samuel said softly. I think he is. Then maybe we can help him find his way. Samuel had to turn away. Pretend to check a bridle that didn't need checking. Thanksgiving came. The hands cooked a steer, set up tables in the bunkhouse, brought out whiskey and stories and the kind of loud, grateful noise that comes from men who've worked hard and lived to see another winter. Nathaniel received his invitation, declined it the way he'd declined every year before. He ate at his desk, alone. Cold beef and bread, didn't taste any of it. He was halfway through when he heard the knock. Looked up, Ellie stood in the doorway. She'd put on one of the new dresses, dark blue wool, too big in the shoulders. Her hair was combed, the left side of her face still angry red, still healing. Mama said families eat together on Thanksgiving, she said. Nathaniel set down his fork. I'm not your family. The locket says different. The locket is old. So are you. She stepped inside. Didn't wait for permission. Tommy's scared you're going to send us away. I told him you wouldn't. Was I lying? Nathaniel's hands flattened on the desk. I don't know yet. Why not? Because I don't know what to do with you. You don't got to do anything. You just got to let us stay. It's not that simple. Why? Because, he stopped. Couldn't find words that weren't confessions. Ellie watched him. You gave Tommy your watch. Mama said a man's watch is his heartbeat. You gave him yours. That means something. It's just a watch. No, it ain't. They stared at each other, old man and burned girl. Two people who'd lost everything, staring across a desk like it was a canyon, neither knew how to cross. Finally, Nathaniel stood. Where's your brother? Dining room. Mrs. Chen set places. She did she? Yes, sir. Nathaniel looked at the cold food on his desk, the empty office, the lamp burning for no one. He walked past Ellie, stopped at the door. Come on, then. The dining room hadn't been used in 18 years. The long table was set for 3. Tommy sat in the middle chair, swimming in it. His bandaged hand rested on the table. The pocket watch lay beside his plate. He looked up when Nathaniel entered. His eyes tracked every movement. Nathaniel took the head of the table, sat down. Ellie took the seat across from Tommy. Mrs. Chen brought food, turkey, potatoes, gravy. Set it down without comment. But Nathaniel saw her smile as she left. They ate in silence. Nathaniel's hand shook holding his fork. Halfway through the meal, Tommy reached over, touched Nathaniel's sleeve, didn't say anything, just held the fabric between his small fingers. Nathaniel looked down at the boy's hand. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Samuel's words came back like a ghost. They're protecting you from being alone anymore. That night, Nathaniel stood in his study, stared at the locked drawer in his desk. Inside was a letter, 15 years old, unopened, from Rebecca, his daughter, their mother. He put his hand on the drawer pull, couldn't open it, not yet. The words inside were either forgiveness or damnation, and Nathaniel Cordell wasn't ready to know which. Word traveled fast in a territory town. By the first Sunday in December, every congregation in 3 counties knew Nathaniel Cordell had taken in 2 orphans, burned children, no papers, no kin, just appeared at his gate like something out of scripture. The charitable called it Christian duty. The suspicious called it something else. Mrs. Hattie Fletcher, banker's wife, self-appointed moral compass of Park County, arrived at the ranch on Tuesday with a basket of preserves and a wagon full of questions. Nathaniel wasn't home. Mrs. Chen showed her to the parlor. Mrs. Fletcher didn't sit. She stood by the window where she could see the children in the yard. Ellie was teaching Tommy how to stack firewood. The boy's face was solemn with concentration. Poor lambs, Mrs. Fletcher said, not sounding like she meant it. Such a tragedy. Their mother, was she dead? Mrs. Chen said flatly. Yes, but who was she? One hears such conflicting stories. I don't gossip, ma'am. Of course not. I only mean, well, people are concerned. Mr. Cordell is a prominent man, unmarried, taking in children without proper oversight. The appearance of it, Mrs. Chen interrupted, is that 2 children nearly died and someone gave them shelter. That seem improper to you? Mrs. Fletcher's smile went thin as paper. I'm merely suggesting that legal guardianship should be formalized for the children's protection. They're plenty protected. Are they? Mrs. Fletcher set down the preserves like evidence, because I've heard, from reliable sources, that Mr. Cordell has barely spoken to them, that he sleeps in his office, that he's provided for their physical needs but nothing more. Is that the environment the territorial court would approve? Mrs. Chen's jaw set. I think you've said enough. I think I haven't said nearly enough. but others will. The county judge, for instance. He takes these matters very seriously. She left. The preserves stayed on the table, untouched. That night, Ellie asked Mrs. Chin why the lady with the tight face had looked at them like they were broken dishes. Mrs. Chin told her some people counted their goodness by how much they judged others. Ellie touched her locket. Will they make us leave? Not if I got breath in my body. But Mrs. Chin's hands shook when she kneaded the bread that evening. Judge Horace Whitmore arrived Thursday. No announcement, no invitation. Just his black carriage rolling up the drive at 10 in the morning, pulled by match bays that probably cost more than most men earned in a year. Samuel met him at the door. Judge, didn't know you were expected. I'm not. Whitmore stepped down. Everything about him was pressed and perfect. Black wool coat, starched collar, wire spectacles that caught the light like little moons. Is Mr. Cordell available? He's in the north pasture. Be back around noon. I'll wait. It wasn't a request. Samuel showed him to the study, brought coffee. Whitmore didn't drink it. Just sat in Nathaniel's chair like he owned it, examining the room with the gaze of a man inventorying assets. When Nathaniel finally returned, clothes dusty, face windburned, he found the judge reading a legal journal in front of his fireplace. Horace. Nathaniel's voice carried no warmth. Thought you only made house calls when someone was dead, or about to be. Whitmore closed the journal, smiled without humor. I'm here on county business. The matter of 2 orphaned minors currently residing on your property. They're not property, they're children. Precisely, children without legal standing, without documentation, without assigned guardianship. He set down the journal. The territorial statute is clear. Orphans must be placed under court supervision until proper homes can be arranged. They have a proper home here. Do they? Whitmore stood, moved to the window. The children were visible in the distance near the barn. Cordell, forgive my bluntness, but our association goes back far enough that I needn't mince words. You're 58 years old, unmarried, no experience with children. You've built your reputation on cattle and land, not compassion. What possible qualification do you have for raising 2 traumatized orphans? Nathaniel's hands flexed. What's your interest in this, Horace? The welfare of children. Same as any officer of the court. You've never given a damn about children. I give a damn about order, law, proper procedure. Whitmore turned from the window. Do you claim legal relation to these children? The question hung in the air like smoke. Nathaniel's throat worked. I'm providing temporary shelter. That's not what I asked. It's what you're getting. Whitmore's smile returned. Colder this time. Then I'm afraid they remain wards of the county. I'll return next week to arrange formal placement. The Helena Foundling Home has space, but like hell. Mr. Cordell, they're not going to Helena. That place is where children go to die slow. And it's a church-run institution with proper supervision and moral instruction. Far more suitable than, he gestured vaguely, whatever this is. Nathaniel stepped forward. Get out of my house. I'll leave, but the law doesn't. Whitmore collected his hat. 1 week, Nathaniel. Either formalize your claim and submit to court oversight, or release them to proper care. Those are your options. He left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. Dr. Frost found Nathaniel in the barn an hour later. He was supposed to be checking the tack. Instead, he was standing in an empty stall, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Horace came to see you, she said. Word travels fast. Small town, smaller when a judge makes threats. She leaned against the stall door. What are you going to do? I don't know. You're lying. I'm thinking. Nate, her voice softened. Those children have been here 2 weeks. You've fed them, clothed them, kept them safe. But you haven't talked to them, not really. You gave Tommy that watch, and you sit outside their door like a guard dog. But you won't say the words. Why? What words? That they're yours, that you claim them. Nathaniel's jaw locked. Because I don't know if I can. Can what? Be what they need. I'm not... He stopped, started again. I don't know how to be a father. I never learned. You think any of us know? You think Samuel knew how to raise those crow boys he took in? We all just do the best we can and pray it's enough. Prayer didn't do much for my daughter. The words came out bitter, raw. Dr. Frost was quiet a moment, then, Rebecca wrote to you. Samuel told me. Nathaniel's hands stilled. He said you got letters for years, and you burned them all but one. Sam talks too much. He cares about you, so do I. And I'm asking, what's in that letter, Nate? I don't know. You've had it 15 years and never opened it? No. Why? Because, his voice cracked. He closed his eyes. Because I know what it says. It says, I'm a coward who chose gold over his family. It says, "My wife died poor and my daughter died alone, and it's my fault. I don't need paper to tell me what I already know." What if it doesn't say that? Then it's worse. Then it says, "She forgave me, and I'll have to live knowing I didn't deserve it." Dr. Frost moved closer, put her hand on his shoulder. "Those children upstairs, they're your second chance. Your daughter's last gift. You can't change what happened to Rebecca, but you can choose what happens to Ellie and Tommy. What if I choose wrong? What if you don't choose at all? That's worse than any mistake." And she left him there, alone with his ghosts and his cowardice in the locked drawer that held either salvation or damnation. That evening, the first real snow fell. Fat flakes that turned the ranch white by midnight. Tommy pressed his face to the window glass, watching. Ellie sat on the bed behind him, braiding and unbraiding her hair with nervous fingers. "Do you think he'll keep us?" Tommy whispered. Ellie's hands stilled. "I don't know. I want to stay." "Me too. But what if he doesn't want us to?" Ellie touched the locket, opened it, stared at the wedding photo, the young man who looked like the old man downstairs, the woman who looked like Mama, both of them frozen in a moment before everything broke. Mama said he was good, said he just got scared. Is he still scared? Yeah. Ellie closed the locket. But so are we. Maybe scared people gotta help each other. Outside, the snow kept falling. Down the hall, Nathaniel stood before the locked drawer. His hand on the key, still couldn't turn it. Not yet. Dr. Frost came back 3 days later. Not for the children, for Nathaniel. She found him in his study, late afternoon. The winter sun slanting through the window made everything look cold and gold at once. He was sitting at his desk, staring at an open ledger he wasn't reading. She closed the door behind her. "You're going to lose them," she said. No preamble, no softness. Nathaniel didn't look up. "Horace gives me a week, still got 4 days. I'm in 4 days to do what? Hide? Hope the problem disappears?" She crossed to the desk. "You can't outrun this, Nate." "I'm not running." Then what are you doing?" "Trying to figure out." He stopped. His hands flattened on the ledger. How to explain to 2 children that their grandfather is a coward who doesn't deserve them. So tell them the truth instead. The truth is worse. Is it? Dr. Frost pulled a chair close, sat without asking. Or is the truth just harder to say than lies you've been telling yourself for 20 years? Nathaniel's jaw worked. She leaned forward. "Where's the letter, Nate?" His eyes closed. "Abigail, where is it?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. His gaze flicked to the locked drawer for half a second. That was enough. Dr. Frost stood, held out her hand. "Give me the key." "No. Give me the key or I'll pry it open with a fireplace poker." "God damn it. Abigail, you think hiding from words on paper makes them less true? You think not knowing protects you?" Her voice was steel-wrapped in sorrow. "That letter has been waiting 15 years. Your daughter wrote it dying poor, and you couldn't even give her the dignity of being heard. You owe her this. You owe those children upstairs. You owe yourself." Nathaniel's hands shook. He reached into his vest pocket, pulled out a small brass key, set it on the desk. Dr. Frost took it, unlocked the drawer. Inside was a single envelope, yellowed, the wax seal broken, but the pages still folded. She pulled it out, set it in front of Nathaniel. "Read it." "I can't." "Then I will." No." His hand shot out, stopped just short of grabbing it. I'll do it." His fingers trembled, opening the pages. The handwriting was careful, unpracticed, like someone who'd learned to write late and never quite trusted it. Nathaniel read aloud, his voice cracking on every third word. "Papa, Mama died of the fever on March 4th. The church put her in the pauper's field because we had no money for proper ground. I wanted to bury her in something nice, but all I had was her wedding dress, and it was too worn to be decent. I have 2 babies now. Eleanor is almost 3. Thomas just turned 1 last week. We live in a cabin 20 miles west of town. There is no work for a woman alone, no family neither. I don't write this to make you hurt, Papa. I write because I forgive you. Mama forgave you too before she died. She said you were scared of being poor again, not scared of loving us. She said you had a good heart, but bad courage. If you can't come back, I understand. But if you could send money, please put it in your real name. I want my babies to know their grandpa existed. I tell them you're a good man who got lost. Maybe one day you'll find your way home. Your daughter, Rebecca Cordell Hayes, March 15th, 1881. The silence that followed was enormous. Nathaniel's hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. Frost's eyes were wet. When did you get this? April, maybe May. I don't remember. His voice was barely there. I saw Rebecca's handwriting on the envelope and I put it in the drawer, locked it, told myself I'd read it when I was ready. 15 years. I sent money twice, 73 and 74, small amounts. Then I stopped. Told myself, He choked on the words. Told myself they were better off thinking I was dead than knowing I was a coward. Now, you didn't send money after you got this letter? I never opened it. Jesus, Nate. I knew what it would say. I knew she was suffering. I knew it was my fault. Reading it would just make it... His voice broke completely. Real. Dr. Frost stared at him. She forgave you. Your daughter forgave you before you even asked, and you couldn't give her the grace of reading her words. I didn't deserve forgiveness. That's not your choice to make. Forgiveness was hers to give, and she gave it, and you threw it in a drawer like garbage. Dr. Frost stood, paced to the window, came back. Do you understand what this means? Those children upstairs, Eleanor and Thomas, Rebecca named them after your wife and probably your father. She kept your name alive in theirs. She told them you were good. She believed in you even when you didn't deserve it. And she died thinking you just never got her letter. Nathaniel's head dropped into his hands. The sound that came out of him wasn't quite crying, more like something breaking that had been holding itself together for decades. I didn't know she had children, he whispered. I didn't know. If I'd opened it, you would have done what? Ridden back? Faced them? Or would you have locked that letter tighter and kept running? He didn't answer. Couldn't, because they both knew the truth. Frost's voice softened. Nate, listen to me. You can't fix what you did to Rebecca. She's gone. But those two children, they're your daughter's last gift. They're here. They're alive. They're asking you to choose them. The question isn't whether you deserve them. The question is, are you brave enough to say yes? Nathaniel looked at the letter, at his daughter's careful handwriting, at the words, I forgive you, staring back like an indictment and an invitation at once. I've spent 20 years building this ranch, he said quietly. Building a name, building walls. All of it was, his throat closed. All of it was so I wouldn't have to face what I'd done. So I could pretend I was someone worth something. And now? Now 2 children are upstairs holding a locket with my face in it, and I don't know if I'm man enough to be who they think I am. Then become him. The door creaked. They both turned. Tommy stood in the doorway, small, bandaged hand against his chest, eyes red. He'd heard everything. Nathaniel's chest seized. Tommy's voice was barely a whisper. Mama said you were lost. Nathaniel couldn't breathe. Tommy took one step into the room, then another. Are you still lost? The question hung in the air like a prayer. Nathaniel looked at this boy, his grandson, his blood, his last chance, and couldn't find words that weren't confessions. Finally, he said the only true thing he had left. Yes. Tommy's face crumpled, but he didn't leave. He just stood there, small and hurt and still hoping. Can we help you find your way? Nathaniel broke. December 18th, 1896. The Park County Courthouse was built to intimidate. High ceilings, dark wood, windows that let in cold light but no warmth. The benches were full by 9 in the morning. Townspeople, ranchers, church ladies with notebooks ready to record every detail for posterity and gossip. Nathaniel sat at the defendant's table. Samuel beside him, Dr. Frost in the front row behind them, her jaw set like she was preparing for battle. The children sat across the aisle with a county matron, a hard-faced woman in gray who kept one hand on Ellie's shoulder like she expected the girl to run. Tommy hadn't looked at Nathaniel once. Ellie hadn't stopped. Judge Horace Whitmore entered at 9 sharp, black robes, wire spectacles catching the light. He sat behind the bench like a man ascending a throne. This court will come to order. Case number 447, County of Park versus the matter of Eleanor and Thomas, surnames unknown, minor orphans currently residing unlawfully in the custody of Mr. Nathaniel Cordell. The gavel fell. It sounded like a coffin lid closing. Whitmore opened a leather portfolio, drew out papers with the careful precision of a man who'd rehearsed every movement. This hearing concerns the proper placement of 2 minor children, orphaned by fire on or about November 16th of this year. These children currently reside at the Cordell Ranch without legal documentation, without formal guardianship, and without court approval. He looked up. Mr. Cordell, do you dispute these facts? Nathaniel's lawyer, a young man from Helena, with more ambition than experience, stood. Your Honor, my client has provided shelter in an emergency situation. The children arrived injured and required immediate care. I asked Mr. Cordell a yes or no question. Silence. Nathaniel stood. No, I don't dispute it. Thank you. You may be seated. Whitmore called his first witness, Mrs. Hattie Fletcher. She took the stand like she was accepting an award. Swore on the Bible with one hand pressed to her chest. Mrs. Fletcher, you visited the Cordell Ranch on December 3rd. What were your observations regarding the children's living situation? Well, she smoothed her skirts. The children appeared physically cared for, I'll grant that. Fed, clothed, but there was no warmth, Your Honor, no family atmosphere. Mr. Cordell wasn't even present during my visit. I was told he spends most evenings in his office, alone. The children sleep in a guest room like boarders, not family. Did you speak with the children? Briefly. The girl is, she lowered her voice. Quite scarred. The boy doesn't speak. Both seem nervous, uncertain, like they didn't know if they'd be staying, uncertain of their place. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Mrs. Fletcher. Nathaniel's lawyer stood. Mrs. Fletcher, how long were you at the ranch? Perhaps 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, you determined the emotional state of 2 traumatized children. Her face pinched. I know what I saw. You saw children healing from burns and shock. You didn't see Mr. Cordell reading to the boy at night. You didn't see him giving up his father's pocket watch, a family heirloom. You didn't see— Objection, Whitmore said mildly. Counsel is testifying. Sustained. The second witness was the county matron. She testified that orphans required structured Christian upbringing in proper institutional settings, that children without formal guardianship were wards of the state, that the Helena Foundling Home had space and resources. She did not mention that half the children sent there died within a year. Dr. Frost's hands were white-knuckled in her lap. Then Whitmore called Samuel Bridger. Samuel took the stand looking like he'd rather face a grizzly. Mr. Bridger, you've worked for Nathaniel Cordell. How long? 18 years. And in those 18 years, has Mr. Cordell ever mentioned having a family? Children? Grandchildren? Samuel's jaw worked. No. Has he ever shown interest in children? Donated to orphanages? Participated in family-oriented community events? Nate keeps to himself. Yes or no, please? No. Would you describe Mr. Cordell as a warm man, affectionate? Samuel looked at Nathaniel. Something passed between them. He's a hard man, Samuel said carefully, but he ain't cruel. Those kids, he gave them shelter when they were dying. He sat outside their door all night to make sure they kept breathing. He gave the boy his father's watch. That means something. It means he's capable of temporary charity. It doesn't mean he's capable of fatherhood. Whitmore flipped a page. Mr. Bridger, in your professional opinion, is Nathaniel Cordell equipped to raise 2 young, traumatized children? The silence stretched. I think he's trying. That wasn't my question. I think— Samuel's voice hardened. I think a man who gives a damn is better than a system that don't. Thank you. No further questions. Then Whitmore called Nathaniel. The walk to the witness stand felt like walking underwater. Nathaniel put his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, sat in the hard chair and felt every eye in the room on him like brands. Mr. Cordell— Whitmore's voice was almost kind. That made it worse. Let's speak plainly. Do you claim legal relation to these children? This was the trap. Say no, they're lost. Say yes. Admit abandonment, and they're still lost. Nathaniel looked at Ellie, at Tommy, at their small faces turned toward him like flowers toward cold light. Yes. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Whitmore leaned forward. Please clarify for the court. They're my grandchildren. Through which line? Nathaniel's throat was full of glass. My daughter, Rebecca Cordell. Rebecca Cordell Hayes. She married, had 2 children, Eleanor and Thomas. And where is your daughter now? Dead. When did she die? I don't— 1895, I think. You think? You're uncertain when your own daughter died. Nathaniel's hands gripped the rail. I wasn't there. Where were you? Here, Montana. And where was Rebecca? Wyoming Territory. So you weren't present for her death? No. Were you present for her marriage? No. The births of her children? No. In fact, Mr. Cordell, when was the last time you saw your daughter? The courtroom was silent as a grave. 1873. Someone in the gallery made a sound. Disbelief or disgust, hard to tell which. Whitmore let it sit. Then, 23 years. You abandoned your daughter for 23 years. Yes. Why? This was the second trap. Confess fully, destroy yourself, lie, and lose them anyway. Nathaniel looked at his hands, then at the children, then at the judge. I was poor, had a wife and a 5-year-old daughter. Heard there was gold in Montana. Told myself I'd go for 6 months, make enough to give them a real life. But I didn't find gold. Found cattle instead, started building. Told myself I'd send for them when I had enough. And did you? I sent money twice. Then— his voice cracked. Then I stopped. Why? Because I was ashamed. I'd promised 6 months, and it had been 2 years. I didn't know how to face them. So I told myself they were better off without a failure. I kept building, kept working, kept pretending I'd done right by leaving. Your wife? Died. 1881. And you learned this how? Letter from my daughter, which you read immediately, of course. Nathaniel closed his eyes. No. No? I locked it away. Didn't read it until 3 days ago. The gallery erupted. Whitmore let the shock and judgment wash over Nathaniel like acid. Let me understand? Whitmore's voice cut through the noise. Your daughter wrote to inform you of your wife's death, and you didn't read it for 15 years. Yes. Did she ask for help in that letter? Nathaniel's voice was barely there. Yes. Did she tell you about her children? Yes. Did you send help? No. Why not? Because I was a coward. The word fell like a stone in still water. Whitmore sat back. Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Cordell. Now, do you formally claim legal guardianship and full financial responsibility for Eleanor and Thomas? Yes. Even knowing that this admission confirms you as an unfit parent who abandoned his family for 2 decades? Nathaniel looked at the children, Ellie's scarred face, Tommy's 2 old eyes. I'm all they have. Are you, or are they all you have? The question hit like a fist. Before Nathaniel could answer, Whitmore produced a document, held it up. I submit to the court Exhibit A, a homestead claim deed filed in 1889 under the name Rebecca Cordell Hayes, 160 acres in Sweetwater County, Wyoming. Upon her death, this land passes to her legal heirs, her children. The land borders the proposed Union Pacific expansion route. Current estimated value, $15,000. The gallery went silent. Whitmore continued. Now I ask the court to consider, is Mr. Cordell's sudden interest in these children motivated by familial affection or by financial gain? Nathaniel's lawyer shot up. Your Honor, that's absurd. Mr. Cordell owns 40,000 acres. He doesn't need money, but he needs redemption. And what better way to buy it than by claiming guardianship of the very children his neglect impoverished? Whitmore looked at Nathaniel. You built an empire on your daughter's suffering. Now you want to profit from her death. That's a lie. Is it? You ignored her for 20 years. Let her die in poverty. And now, when her children arrive with proof of inheritance, you suddenly claim them as blood. Convenient, Mr. Cordell, morally reprehensible. Nathaniel stood. I don't want their money. What you want is irrelevant. What matters is what's best for these children. And what's best is removal from a man who sees them as assets. The gavel fell. Guardianship denied. Children remanded to territorial custody, pending placement in the Helena Foundling Home. This hearing is adjourned. Ellie screamed. The sound cut through the courtroom like breaking glass. She tore away from the matron, ran toward Nathaniel. A bailiff caught her, lifted her off the ground. No, he came for us. He chose us. Tommy just stared, frozen, silent again. Ellie clawed at the bailiff's arms. The locket tore from her neck, fell, skittered across the wooden floor. Nathaniel lunged for it, caught it. The chain broken, the locket open, his young face staring up at him. Please. He looked at Whitmore. Please. She needs medical care. Her burns. The Foundling Home has a physician. She'll die there. That's not this court's concern. The bailiff carried Ellie toward the back door. She was still screaming. Tommy followed like a ghost, the matron's hand on his shoulder. At the door, Ellie looked back. Her eyes met Nathaniel's. And then she was gone. The courtroom emptied. Nathaniel sat on the floor, the locket in his hands, the chain broken. Samuel found him there 20 minutes later. Still sitting, still holding it, not moving, not breathing right. Nate. Nothing. Nate, come on, we'll figure something out. He took them. Nathaniel's voice was hollow. I told the truth and he took them anyway. Law ain't justice. You know that. Then what good is it? Samuel had no answer. Outside, the snow started falling again. Inside, Nathaniel Cordell held a broken locket and learned that sometimes the righteous lose. And mercy dies. And goodness isn't enough. 4 days. That's how long it took for Nathaniel to understand what absence sounds like. The children's room still smelled like them. Soap and wood smoke and something sweeter. Honey from the bread Mrs. Chin had brought them for breakfast that last morning. Their beds were made. Hospital corners. The way Mrs. Chin did everything. Tommy's bandages sat folded on the nightstand. He'd been healing. Another week, and he wouldn't have needed them anymore. Ellie's hair ribbon was tangled in the bedpost. Dark blue. She'd tried to tie it herself that morning. Failed. Asked Mrs. Chin for help. 3 hours later, she was screaming in a courtroom. Now the ribbon just hung there, moving slightly when the wind found the gaps in the window frame. Nathaniel sat on the floor between the beds, back against the wall, the broken locket in his hands. He'd been there since dawn. It was past noon now. Samuel had knocked twice, been ignored twice. The third time, he didn't knock. Just left a plate of food outside the door. The food was still there at sunset, cold, untouched. Night came. Nathaniel didn't light the lamp, just sat in the dark and listened to the house settle. The wood contracting in the cold, the wind testing the shutters. Somewhere downstairs, Mrs. Chen was washing dishes. The sound was distant, like something from another life. He opened the locket. The wedding photo was still there, his young face, his wife's smile. Both of them strangers now. Rebecca's lock of baby hair, dark, soft, impossibly small. He touched it with one finger. Tried to remember holding her as an infant. Couldn't. That memory was gone. Buried under 23 years of deliberate forgetting. He'd built an empire on forgetting. Now all he had left was remembering. Around midnight, he walked to the cemetery. The snow was knee-deep in places. He didn't bring a lantern. Didn't need one. The moon was bright enough to cast shadows. His wife's grave was easy to find. He'd paid for the headstone in 1882, hadn't visited since. Elizabeth Cordell, beloved wife, 1843 to 1881. He knelt, snow soaked through his trousers. I lost them, he said to the stone, to the frozen ground, to nothing. She forgave me, and I still lost them. The wind was his only answer. He stayed there until his knees went numb, until he couldn't feel his hands, until the cold was the only thing keeping him tethered to anything real. Finally, I don't know how to fix this. The stone said nothing. The dead never do. 200 miles away, Eleanor Cordell wasn't sleeping either. The Helena Foundling home had 40 beds in one room, 40 children who'd learned that crying changed nothing. The air smelled like carbolic soap and sickness and institutional mercy, the kind that keeps you alive, but doesn't care if you want to be. Ellie lay on her cot, 7th from the left, 2nd row, her burns hurt. The matron had changed the bandages once, roughly. Said infection was God's way of teaching fortitude. Ellie hadn't cried. She'd learned in the courtroom that crying just made men look away faster. Tommy was in the boys' wing, separate building. She hadn't seen him since they arrived. Didn't know if he was eating, didn't know if he'd started talking again, didn't know if he was still alive. The not knowing was worse than the burns. Morning came to the Foundling home at 5:30. Bell ringing, children rising like ghosts, 30 minutes to wash. Breakfast was porridge, with no salt, no sugar, sustenance, not kindness. The matron walked the rows while they ate, cane tapping the floor. Eleanor Cordell. Ellie looked up. Your bandages. Ellie stood, followed to the medical room. Just a closet, really. One chair. Dirty bandages in a bin. The matron unwrapped Ellie's face. The burns were weeping, edges red. Infected. Ellie said nothing. Hold still. The matron cleaned them with something that burned worse than fire. Ellie bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted copper. New bandages, tighter than before. You'll scar, said like a sentence. No man will want you. Ellie's hand went to her throat. Found nothing. The locket was gone. She'd forgotten. For one morning, she'd forgotten, and now the remembering hit like falling. I want my brother, she whispered. Want and get are different things. Back to your bed. That night, Tommy appeared, not in person. In the space between, awake and asleep, where grief makes ghosts of the living. Ellie could hear him crying. Thin walls between the boys' and girls' wings. 40 children, and she knew his voice immediately. She pressed her hand to the wall. Cold plaster. I'm here, she thought. I'm still here. The crying stopped. For a moment she thought he'd heard her somehow. Thought maybe blood could speak through walls. Then she realized he hadn't stopped crying. He'd just learned to do it silently. The way everything in this place was silent. No laughter. No shouting. No fighting. Just the sound of children learning that hope was a luxury they couldn't afford. Back at the ranch, Samuel found Nathaniel in the barn. 3rd night in a row. Didn't matter that there were beds, warm rooms. Nathaniel stayed where the cold could find him. Samuel sat on a hay bale, didn't speak, just breathed the same air, shared the same silence. After an hour, you can't save your daughter, Samuel said quietly. She's gone, but you can save hers. Nathaniel's hand stilled on the bridle he'd been holding without seeing. The law won't let me. Then break the law. I've spent 20 years building a name. What's a name worth if you can't say it to the ones you love? The question hung between them. Samuel stood, brushed hay from his trousers, paused at the door. Your daughter forgave you before you earned it. Maybe it's time you did something worth forgiving. He left. The barn door closed. Nathaniel sat in the dark, the bridle in his hands. Samuel's words echoing, break the law. He'd spent 20 years hiding behind respectability, behind wealth, behind the kind of reputation that let a man eat alone and call it dignity. And it had gotten him nothing but an empty house and 2 children screaming his name in a courtroom. Maybe Samuel was right. Maybe it was time to become the kind of man who deserved forgiveness, even if it cost him everything. At dawn, on December 23rd, Nathaniel burned the land deed, the one worth $15,000. The one Whitmore said he wanted, burned it in his fireplace. watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. Then he wrote a new will, left everything, the ranch, the cattle, the accounts, to Eleanor and Thomas Cordell, legitimate heirs, sealed it, left it on his desk where Samuel would find it, packed a bag, saddled his horse, left before anyone could stop him. The sun was rising over the mountains when he rode out. He was heading north, to Helena, to his grandchildren, to whatever came next. December 24th, 1896. Nathaniel reached Helena just past midnight. The foundling home sat on the edge of town like a warning, gray stone, narrow windows, a cross above the door that looked more like an accusation than a comfort. The building was dark except for one lamp on the first floor, night matron's station. Nathaniel tied his horse 2 blocks away, walked the rest. His breath made clouds in the frozen air. Doctor. Frost and Samuel were waiting at the corner. They'd left 12 hours after he did, caught up at sunset. You know, this is kidnapping, Dr. Frost said, not arguing, stating fact. I know. Whitmore will have you arrested. I know. You'll lose everything. I already did. Samuel handed him a folded paper. Writ of medical emergency. Forged. Won't hold up in court, but it'll get you through the door. Nathaniel took it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Odds are good we all end up in jail. Then we'll have company. They crossed the street. The night matron answered the door on the third knock. She was 60 if she was a day, face like old leather, eyes that had seen too much suffering to be moved by more. We're closed. Dr. Frost stepped forward. I'm Dr. Abigail Frost. I have a medical emergency writ for one of your residents. Eleanor Cordell. I was her attending physician before she was remanded here. I have reason to believe she's developing sepsis from burn wounds. The matron's face didn't change. We have a physician. When did he last examine her? That's not your concern. It is if she dies from neglect. Then it becomes a coroner's concern, and a judge's. Frost held up the forged paper. This is a territorial health order. You can let me examine her, or you can explain to the governor why you refused medical care to a dying child. The matron's jaw tightened. She opened the door. The girls' ward smelled like sickness and resignation. 40 beds, 38 filled. Most of the children awake despite the hour, watching with hollow eyes. Which one? The matron asked. 7th bed, 2nd row. They found her. Ellie was unconscious, fever flushed. The bandages on her face were stained yellow-green. Dr. Frost touched her forehead, swore under her breath. Jesus, when were these last changed? 3 days ago. 3. She's got infection in the bone. Another day, and... Dr. Frost looked up. Get her up. We're taking her. You can't. Watch me. Nathaniel moved before the matron could react. Slid his arms under Ellie, lifted her. She weighed nothing. Like lifting shadow in fever. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Mama? No, honey. It's... His voice caught. It's your grandfather. You came. Yeah, I came. Tommy. We'll get him. I promise. The boys' wing was across a covered walkway, separate building. Colder, if that was possible. The door was locked. Samuel put his shoulder into it. Wood splintered. They found Tommy in the 3rd row, awake, staring at the ceiling like he'd been waiting. When he saw Nathaniel, his eyes went wide. Nathaniel knelt beside the bed. Hey, son. Tommy's mouth opened, closed, no sound. I know I'm late, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving without you. Tommy's hand reached out, touched Nathaniel's face, like checking if he was real. They said you wouldn't come. Said nobody comes. They were wrong. Are you taking us home? Yes. What if they stop us? Then they'll have to go through me first. Tommy threw his arms around Nathaniel's neck. Held on like drowning, Nathaniel stood, the boy in his arms, light as guilt and twice as heavy. They were halfway across the yard when the matron appeared with 2 men. Night guards, big, mean-looking, the kind hired to intimidate. Stop. You're removing wards of the state without authorization. That's a criminal act. Nathaniel kept walking. Then arrest me. I'm calling the sheriff. Call him. You're destroying your life for 2 orphans who aren't even... They're mine. Nathaniel's voice was steel. They're my blood, my family, my responsibility, and I'm taking them home. The matron stepped in front of him. The law put dying children in a cold room and called it mercy. The law took them from someone who loves them and gave them to someone who counts them like inventory. He looked at her. I don't give a damn about the law anymore. Dr. Frost moved between them. Let them go, Martha. You know what happens to children like this in places like this. You've seen it. You know. The matron's face twitched. Something almost human flickered in her eyes. Then it died. Report it, she said to the guards. But she stepped aside. They loaded Ellie into the wagon. Samuel had blankets ready. Dr. Frost checked her pulse. We need to move. Her fever's rising. Nathaniel climbed up. Tommy, still in his arms, refused to let go. Samuel took the reins, snapped them. The horses moved. Behind them, the foundling home faded into darkness. They were 2 miles out when Ellie woke fully. She looked around, confused, saw the stars, the open sky, Nathaniel's face. "We're going home." But the judge said, "I don't care what he said." And her hand found the place where the locket used to hang. Touched bare skin, her face crumpled. "I lost it. The locket. It fell, and Nathaniel reached into his coat, pulled out the broken locket. Chain still snapped, but the photo's inside safe. "I've got it." She took it, held it like prayer. "You came for us." "I did." "Why?" The question hit him harder than any gavel. Why? Because they were blood. Because they were orphaned. Because the law was wrong. All of those were true, but not the whole truth. Because, he said quietly, "I couldn't lose you twice." Ellie's eyes filled. "We thought nobody wanted us." "I want you." "God help me. I want you more than I've wanted anything in 23 years. What about your ranch? Your name?" The judge said, "Let it burn. All of it. Doesn't mean a thing if you're not there." Tommy lifted his head from Nathaniel's shoulder, his voice small but clear. "Are we your family now?" Nathaniel looked at this boy, this small, broken, brave boy who'd learned to cry silently and speak in whispers and still somehow hope. "You've always been my family. I was just too scared to say it." "Are you still scared?" "Terrified." "Of what?" "That I'll fail you. That I'll do what I did to your mama. That I'll—" His voice broke. "That I'll run when things get hard." Tommy's hand touched his face. "Don't run." "I won't." "Promise?" And there it was. The moment, the choice that couldn't be taken back. Nathaniel Cordell, who'd spent 23 years running from promises, looked at his grandson and said, "Promise." They rode through the night. Dr. Frost kept checking Ellie's fever, administered laudanum, changed bandages by lantern light. Tommy fell asleep against Nathaniel's chest, one hand gripping his coat, even in sleep, holding on. Around dawn, they stopped at a creek to water the horses. Samuel pulled Nathaniel aside. "Sheriff will be at the ranch by noon. Warrant for your arrest." "I know. You ready for that?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Samuel smiled, sad and proud at once. "That's the first brave thing I've heard you say in 18 years. Took me long enough. Better late than never." They climbed back in the wagon. The sun was rising over the mountains, turning the snow gold and rose and achingly beautiful. Ellie woke, saw it, whispered, "Mama loved sunrises." Nathaniel's throat tightened. "What was she like?" "Your mama." "Kind, tired. She worked hard, hurt her hands sewing, but she sang anyway." "What did she sing?" "Old songs, church songs. She said they made her feel like you were still somewhere listening." The words hit like bullets. Nathaniel had to look away, blink hard. "I'm sorry I wasn't. I'm sorry She forgave you." Ellie's voice was matter-of-fact. "She told us you were just lost, and lost people always find their way home eventually. I don't deserve that. Maybe not. But it's yours anyway." She closed her eyes, leaned against him. For the first time in 23 years, Nathaniel Cordell felt the weight of someone trusting him completely. It was heavier than shame, lighter than freedom, and absolutely terrifying. They reached the ranch mid-morning, no sheriff waiting yet, just Mrs. Chen on the porch. When she saw them, she pressed both hands to her mouth, then ran to help. Nathaniel carried Ellie inside. Tommy wouldn't leave his side. They put Ellie in her old bed. Dr. Frost went to work immediately. Samuel posted watch at the gate, and Nathaniel sat between the beds where his grandchildren slept, one hand on Ellie's blanket, one on Tommy's shoulder. If the law came for him now, they'd have to drag him out. He wasn't running anymore. Whatever came next, he'd face it, together. The sheriff arrived on December 26th, rode up to the gate, saw Samuel waiting, warrant folded in his coat pocket. "He inside?" "Yeah." "Kids?" "With him." The sheriff, a man named Pike, who'd known Nathaniel 15 years, sat his horse a long minute, thinking. Finally, "I got orders to arrest him. Kidnapping. Contempt. Judge Whitmore's madder than a wet cat." You gonna do it?" "Supposed to." "But?" Pike looked at the house, at the smoke rising from the chimney. "But I got eyes. And a conscience. Those kids were dying in Helena. Everyone knows it. Whitmore knows it. He just don't care. So I'm gonna ride back to town, tell the judge I couldn't find him. Buy you folks maybe 2 days before he sends someone who won't look the other way?" Samuel nodded. "Appreciate it." "Don't appreciate me. Just don't make me regret this." Pike turned his horse, paused. "For what it's worth, Half the town's on your side, other half's just scared of Whitmore. But scared don't last forever. He rode off. Inside, Nathaniel heard the hoofbeats fade, didn't relax. Not yet. Dr. Frost stayed at the ranch for 5 days. Ellie's fever broke on the 3rd night. The infection was stubborn, but responding to treatment. The burns would scar. Nothing could change that, but she'd live. Tommy didn't leave Nathaniel's sight, followed him from room to room, slept in his bed, woke up checking to make sure he was still there. "You think he'll come take us back?" Tommy whispered one morning. "The judge?" "Yeah." Nathaniel was shaving, stopped, met Tommy's eyes in the mirror. "If he tries, he'll have to come through me, and Samuel, and Dr. Frost, and half the territory, if I'm reading things right. But he's a judge. He's got the law." "The law's just words, son. Words can be wrong. People can be right." Tommy considered this. "Mama used to say the law and justice ain't always the same thing. Your mama was smart. Will we ever see her grave?" The razor slipped. Nathaniel nicked his jaw, dabbed it with a towel. "Yeah, when you're ready, we'll go together." On January 3rd, a petition arrived, delivered by the Presbyterian minister, signed by 87 residents of Park County, demanding Judge Whitmore recuse himself from the case or face removal proceedings. The charges: conflict of interest, bias, failure to prioritize child welfare. Dr. Frost had organized it, gone door to door, told the story Whitmore tried to hide, that the children were dying, that Nathaniel had risked everything to save them, that mercy shouldn't be a crime. Whitmore tried to ignore it. The governor didn't. By January 15th, Whitmore was encouraged to retire for health reasons. A new judge was appointed, younger, from Helena, with a reputation for fairness over procedure. The hearing was set for February 10th. February came cold and clear. The second hearing was nothing like the first. Different judge. Different tone, different outcome. The new judge, a man named Crawford, listened to Dr. Frost's testimony about Ellie's medical needs, listened to Samuel describe Nathaniel's transformation, listened to Mrs. Chen talk about 2 children who laughed now, who felt safe, who called the ranch home. Then he called Ellie and Tommy to the stand. Ellie wore a new dress, blue wool. Her scars were healing but visible. She didn't hide them. "Miss Cordell, are you happy at your grandfather's ranch?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" "Because we're wanted there. We weren't wanted other places." "Your grandfather, does he treat you well?" "He reads to Tommy at night. He lets me help with the horses. He sits with us at breakfast even though he used to eat alone." She looked at Nathaniel. "He chose us, even when it cost him everything." What do you mean?" "The lady at the foundling home said he'd lose his ranch, his money, his name, but he came anyway." Her voice was steady, clear. "He came because we needed him." Crawford nodded, turned to Tommy. "And you, young man, what do you think?" Tommy was quiet a long moment. Then, "I think grandpas are people who come back, even when they're scared." The ruling came February 14th, 1897. Legal guardianship granted. Formal adoption papers signed. Eleanor and Thomas officially became Eleanor and Thomas Cordell. Court recognized. Territory approved. Family by law and choice both. Nathaniel paid a $5,000 fine for the kidnapping charge. Paid it gladly, worth every penny. That evening, Nathaniel called the children to his study. They came nervous, thought maybe it was bad news despite the ruling. Instead, he handed Ellie a small box. She opened it. Inside, the locket. Chain repaired, silver polished. "Open it," he said. She did. The wedding photo was still there, and Rebecca's baby hair. But now there was something new. A second photograph, recent, taken in January by a traveling photographer Samuel had found. Nathaniel sitting in a chair, Ellie on one side, Tommy on the other. All three, looking at the camera, like they weren't quite sure this was real, but were willing to believe it anyway. The first family photograph in 24 years. Ellie's breath caught. "It's us." "Yeah. All of us." "That's right." She touched the photo, then the old one. "Mama's in here, and Grandma, and now us. Your grandmother's locket held your mother. Now it holds you. And someday," his voice roughened, "someday maybe you'll add your own children. Keep it going. Keep the family alive." Ellie looked up, eyes shining. "You mean we get to stay? Forever?" "Forever. Legal papers say so. Judge says so. And more important, I say so." She threw her arms around him. Tommy joined. They stood like that a long time. 3 people who'd been lost finding each other in the ruins. Finally, Nathaniel placed the locket around Ellie's neck, clasped it. "This was your grandmother's. Then your mother's. Now it's yours. Don't lose it." "What if I do?" "You won't. It's already found its way home 3 times." He smiled, sad and true. Seems like it knows where it belongs. Late February, the ice started melting. Spring was still a month away, but you could feel it coming. The air different? Lighter. Tommy asked again about his mother's grave. This time Nathaniel said yes. They rode to Wyoming, 3 days' travel, stayed in a boarding house near the Pauper's Field where Rebecca was buried. The grave was unmarked, just a wooden stake with a number. That's what his daughter had been reduced to. A number in frozen ground. Nathaniel stood there a long time. Couldn't speak. Finally, Ellie took his hand. It's okay. She's not really here. Not the part that mattered. Where is she? Ellie touched the locket. Here. And here. She touched her heart, then Tommy's, then Nathaniel's. She's everywhere we remember her. A week later, a wagon arrived with a headstone. White marble. Simple. True. They said it together. Nathaniel and Samuel and the children. Rebecca Cordell Hayes. Beloved daughter, devoted mother, forever forgiven, 1868 to 1895. She kept the light burning. Ellie read it aloud, touched the words. She did, even when it was hard. Tommy placed wildflowers at the base. Winter killed, but something. Nathaniel knelt, put both hands on the cold stone. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. Sorry I didn't read your words. Sorry I let you die thinking I didn't care. His voice broke. But I'm raising them now, your children, our children. And I swear on everything I've got left, I won't run again. I won't hide. I'll be what you needed me to be. I'll be their grandfather, their family. He couldn't finish. Ellie knelt beside him, put her small hand over his. She knows, Grandpa. She knows. And maybe she did. Maybe somewhere, Rebecca Cordell Hayes was watching her father finally become the man she'd always believed he could be, watching her children find home in the ruins of old mistakes, watching forgiveness bloom in frozen ground. They stayed until sunset, then rode home, together, family. Spring came slow to Montana that year, but it came. The first change was the gate. Nathaniel ordered it left open during daylight hours. Samuel protested. Cattle would wander. Strangers could enter unannounced. Let them, Nathaniel said. I'm done locking things out. So the gate stayed open, wide, welcoming. Tommy liked to sit on the fence rail beside it, watching the road. When Samuel asked what he was looking for, Tommy said, nothing. Just making sure nobody's trying to find their way home and can't get in. Samuel had to walk away, wipe his eyes where the boy couldn't see. The second change was laughter. It started with Ellie. She was learning to ride. Nathaniel put her on the gentlest mare they had, a chestnut named Honey, who'd never spooked in her life. Ellie was doing fine. Careful. Serious. Then Honey saw a snake in the grass. Nothing dangerous. Just a garter snake sunning itself. Honey shied. Ellie yelped, fell sideways, right into the water trough. Came up soaked, hat gone, hair plastered to her face. For a second, nobody moved. Then Ellie started laughing. Not polite laughing, real laughing. The kind that comes from the belly and doesn't know how to stop. Tommy started next, then Samuel, then even Mrs. Chen, watching from the porch. Finally, Nathaniel, a sound he'd forgotten he could make. Ellie climbed out, dripping, still laughing. Did you see her face? Like the snake was going to eat her. Honey's scared of her own shadow, Samuel managed. I'm scared of water troughs now, Ellie shot back. More laughter. That night at dinner, Ellie was still damp, still smiling. Nathaniel looked at her across the table. Scarred face, wet hair, eyes bright with something that looked like joy, and thought, this is what I was missing. The third change was Tommy's voice. He'd been speaking more. Small sentences, careful words. But he still didn't talk much about the fire, about his mother, about the before, until one morning in late March, he and Nathaniel were fixing a fence line. Tommy was handing him nails. The work slow and easy. Grandpa? Yeah? Do you think Mama knows we're okay? Nathaniel's hands stilled on the post. I do. How? Because if there's any justice in heaven, mothers get to see their children safe. Tommy was quiet, then, I dream about her sometimes. She's burned, screaming. I can't reach her. Nathaniel set down the hammer, knelt, eye level with his grandson. That's going to happen. For a while. Maybe a long while. But one day, I promise you, the bad dreams will come less. And the good memories will come more. You'll remember her singing, her hands, the way she said your name. Well, what if I forget? You won't. We won't let you. Nathaniel put a hand on Tommy's shoulder. We'll tell stories. Look at the locket. Keep her alive in how we live. That's what family does. Tommy leaned against him, small and trusting. I'm glad you came back, he whispered. Me too, son. Me too. In April, they planted a garden. Ellie's idea. She wanted vegetables, flowers. Something living that we made, she said. They chose a plot near the gate, turned the soil. Tommy found worms and squealed. Ellie planted seeds with the careful precision of someone who understood how fragile life could be. Nathaniel worked beside them, hands in the dirt, back aching, happier than he'd been in 20 years. That night, filthy and tired, they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "You think things'll grow?" Tommy asked. "If we take care of them," Nathaniel said. "What if we forget? What if we mess up? Then we try again. That's what second chances are for." One evening in early May, Ellie brought Nathaniel something, Rebecca's letter, the one he'd finally read in December. "Can we burn it?" she asked. Nathaniel looked at her. "Why?" "Because you came home. We don't need paper to prove it anymore. We got you." He stared at the letter, his daughter's handwriting, the words that had haunted him for 15 years. "You sure?" "Yeah, Mama forgave you. We know it. That's enough." They burned it in the fireplace, watched the paper curl, blacken, turn to ash. When it was gone, Ellie said, "Now it's just us. No more old hurts. Just what's next." Nathaniel pulled her close. "Smart girl." "I know," she grinned, her scarred face open and unashamed. "Mama always said I got your brains, and your grandmother's stubbornness. That too." By June, the garden was blooming. Tomatoes climbing their stakes, squash sprawling, wildflowers bright against the fence. Tommy watered it every morning. Talked to the plants like they were listening. Maybe they were. Nathaniel built a bench beside the gate. Sat there sometimes in the evening, watching the road, the mountains, the sky turning colors that didn't have names. Ellie joined him one night, the locket around her neck catching the last light. "You happy, Grandpa?" The question caught him off guard. Was he happy? For 20 years he'd been successful, wealthy, respected. But happy? No. Now he was tired. Scarred by choices. Broke from legal fees, his reputation tarnished. And Tommy was singing in the barn, and Ellie was laughing at dinner, and the gate was open, and the house smelled like bread and living things. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." "Good." She leaned against him. "Mama would be glad." "You think?" "I know. She told me once. People aren't measured by what they got. They're measured by what they give away." She looked at him. "You gave away everything for us. That makes you rich." Nathaniel's throat closed up. He put his arm around her. This girl who'd survived fire and grief and abandonment and still believed in goodness. "You're a lot like her, you know." "Mama?" "Yeah, brave, kind, stubborn as hell." Ellie grinned. "Don't let Mrs. Chin hear you cuss. Don't tell her, and I'll let you ride Honey tomorrow." "Deal." They shook on it, and the sun went down over the ranch, over the open gate, over the garden growing wild and beautiful, over a family that had been broken and was learning, slowly, painfully, truly, to be whole. July 1897. Dawn came soft over the ranch. Nathaniel woke to the sound of children in the kitchen. Ellie teaching Tommy how to crack eggs without getting shell in the bowl. Their voices, hers patient, his determined, drifting up the stairs. He dressed slowly, looked at himself in the mirror, older, grayer, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. But his eyes were different now, not cold anymore, just tired and alive. Breakfast was eggs and toast and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Tommy showed Nathaniel a drawing he'd made. The ranch, the gate, 3 figures standing together. "That's us," Tommy said. Unnecessary explanation, but proud. "Frame it," Nathaniel said. Tommy's face lit up. After breakfast, they walked to the garden. The tomatoes were ripe, the flowers tall. A young pine tree had been planted beside the gate in March. Ellie's idea, memorial for Rebecca. It was 6 inches taller now, green and reaching. Ellie touched the locket at her throat. Habit now, like prayer. Mama would have loved this. Nathaniel nodded. Couldn't speak past the knot in his chest. That evening, they sat on the porch. 3 chairs, 3 bodies. No words needed. The sun sank behind the mountains, turned the sky gold and rose and purple. Tommy leaned against Nathaniel's arm, half asleep, still holding on. Ellie opened the locket, looked at both photographs, the old and the new, the lost and the found, closed it gently. "We're home," she whispered. Nathaniel's hand covered hers. "Yes." The camera pulls back slowly. 3 silhouettes against dying light. The gate open. The garden growing wild and beautiful. Smoke rising from the chimney, not destruction but warmth. The locket glinting at Ellie's throat. One family, built from ashes. Held together by forgiveness and second chances and the stubborn refusal to stay broken. No words, just breath, just peace, just light. July 1897. Dawn came soft over the ranch. Nathaniel woke to the sound of children in the kitchen. Ellie teaching Tommy how to crack eggs without getting shell in the bowl. Their voices, hers patient, his determined, drifting up the stairs. He dressed slowly, looked at himself in the mirror, Older, grayer, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. But his eyes were different now. Not cold anymore, just tired and alive. Breakfast was eggs and toast and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Tommy showed Nathaniel a drawing he'd made. The ranch, the gate, 3 figures standing together. "That's us," Tommy said. Unnecessary explanation, but proud. "Frame it," Nathaniel said. Tommy's face lit up. After breakfast, they walked to the garden. The tomatoes were ripe, the flowers tall. A young pine tree had been planted beside the gate in March. Ellie's idea, memorial for Rebecca. It was 6 inches taller now, green and reaching. Ellie touched the locket at her throat. Habit now, like prayer. Mama would have loved this. Nathaniel nodded, couldn't speak past the knot in his chest. That evening, they sat on the porch. 3 chairs, 3 bodies. No words needed. The sun sank behind the mountains, turned the sky gold and rose and purple. Tommy leaned against Nathaniel's arm, half asleep, still holding on. Ellie opened the locket, looked at both photographs, the old and the new, the lost and the found, closed it gently. "We're home," she whispered. Nathaniel's hand covered hers. Yes. The camera pulls back slowly, 3 silhouettes against dying light, the gate open, the garden growing wild and beautiful, smoke rising from the chimney, not destruction but warmth. The locket glinting at Ellie's throat, one family, built from ashes, held together by forgiveness and second chances and the stubborn refusal to stay broken, no words, just breath, just peace, just light.